my cute pictures in it, but just wanted to just kind of help follow along today. And so that was a great introduction with the biography. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And so let's go to now, how do I move this? Okay, I found myself. Living my purpose. All of us, quite honestly, all of us are born with a purpose. And greatness is in each and every one of us. And, you know, as a little kid, a lot of times, if you're around good influences, you have a lot of people that's pouring into your life and saying how special you are and how beautiful you are and all the wonderful things you're going to do in this life. And I remember when I was in elementary school in the 6th grade, there was this song that they taught all of us, and they taught us, and it's called I'm Somebody Special. And the song, I'm not going to sing it, I'll tell you the words. It says, I'm somebody special, especially special. There's nobody exactly like me. You may have 2 eyes just like me, a nose and a face just like me. You may have 2 ears just like me, but there's nobody exactly like me because I'm somebody special. And truly we are somebody special. And I have to sit back and remind myself when many people try to invade my personal space, you know, the purpose that God has created me to do and to live. And so we can always say we're going to do this one day, but what do we do in the meanwhile? We live in the meanwhile. So we're living in our purposes. And so I just want to talk about living in my purpose today, because I know God created me for such a time as this day and this season of life. It's interesting because I remember when I was a teenager probably, and I was, you know, I thought about the time period that God chose for me to be born in, the 1960s, versus a time of slavery. And I said, I probably would have been, you know, the Sojourner Truth, or somebody just have an uprising. I might have been killed early in life, martyred, and not been able to do a lot of other things. I don't know, but God knows the purpose for us. I could have been born even earlier and went through the real, you know, heaviness of the civil rights movement, but that's not the time that God chose to put me in. And it's really incredible at this time to still be breaking ceilings, you know, shattering glass ceilings and breaking barriers and being the first at something. It's so many things. You think that all the firsts were taken up, but I'm grateful that I'm able to live in this moment, to be able to actually be the first at some things. So my story, who am I? You heard a little bit about my bio and about me being a mother of 4 and 4 stepchildren that I inherited. I would say I inherited 4. And from the first 4, they have birthed 6 of my grandkids. And one of my son, my oldest son, which will be 29 in a couple of months, he is the father of my grandson, my bloodline, little B. So if you see anything on my Facebook, so a lot of times you probably see me with my grandson, little B, that's almost 4 years old. But you know, my journey, everybody have their own journey of life. But if you think about it as, you know, traveling, this journey that I've been on, you know, sometimes I've run into dead ends, or I've run into stop and go traffic, like commute, like, can I get somewhere? And sometimes it seems like just going around in circles, you know, you don't want to stop sometime to ask for directions. And now we have our phones that we can do our navigation on, but back in the day, you had to actually pull over or pull at a gas station. Like, how do I get to my next stop? And so this journey of life, you know, doesn't come with a manual so that, you know, and you can't see that it's a dead end until you get to it. And then, you know, do you just stop and say, you know, this was a wrong decision? Let me back up and go the other direction and take another step. As a child, there were many things that I wanted to be. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of goals and dreams in life, especially if you can think back to when you were a kid. Well, when I was a kid, as I was growing up, I watched 21 Jump Street, and I was inspired by Holly Robinson at the time, because she was somebody that I could identify with. So I thought, you know, I could be this undercover cop, and I could be the nice guy, though. I would be the one going in like, you better hurry up and get it together before you get in trouble. I'll be the one trying to get them out of trouble. I'm not the one looking for the bad guys. I'm trying to help the bad guys. Let's change our life. And so that's really, you know, a part of who I am and my DNA, to be that mentor, to try to reach out to those who are maybe going down a bad path and help get them on the right track for their lives. And as I got a little older, you know, I mean, I had talked to my father, and he was a police officer back in the 50s in DC. And I told him I wanted to be a cop. And he was like, oh, no, 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 you can't be a cop. That's too dangerous for a girl. I'm like, well, a girl can be a cop. But he said, nope, you can't be that, because one of his partners actually got shot in the line of duty. And so he just felt that it was too dangerous for a girl. He said, but you know what? You're really good at writing. And it's amazing how we can be influenced by others around us. And my father was one of those big influencers in my life. And he said, well, you should be a journalist because you write write very well. So I began to write more. And I love always talking to people and interviewing people and what they think about different things. And so I decided I want to be an anchor woman. I want to be Nancy. My maiden name was Lipscomb, Nancy Lipscomb reporting live, a channel, whatever channel that was going to be. So I was all excited about being this anchor woman. So when I applied for college, I was looking for colleges that were well known for journalism. And so I wanted to go to Syracuse. I was all excited about going to Syracuse, and I applied to some other schools in New York and Colorado. And fortunately, and California, obviously, I'm from Southern California. And I got into all of the colleges. So, and I had full rides everywhere. So thank God I had an opportunity of where I wanted to attend. And I ended up choosing UC Berkeley for personal reasons. I decided to go there, but things, you know, changed along the way. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. Obviously, I'm not an anchor woman, but I do get to use, you know, speaking all the time when it comes to not only ministry, but when it comes to being the mayor and speaking out in public and writing. I do get to write a lot, and I have 7 published books and working on some others this year. But along the way, everything that I do is really birthed from ministry. Ministry is at the heart of everything that I do because it inspires me to help where there's a need. When I see that there's a need somewhere, that's where I seek to try to find it and what I can do. I remember I was speaking at a graduation, and different ones were talking about how, you know, God had to basically arrest them to make them do something in ministry. I'm like, I've always been like the prophet Jeremiah, send me, I'll go, I'll raise my hand. If something needs to be done, I was never afraid to do that. And so that led me into a lot of things as a youth in school, and the many activities that I was a part of. By the time I was a senior in high school, I was student body president. I was the editor of the yearbook. I was the Black Student Union president. I ran track. I was the gymnastics manager. I did the stats for the football team. And you thought that was enough. I was already Sunday school at my church, and I was a head usher, and I directed the adult choir, and I worked for McDonald's on my off days to be able to make my own money, to be independent. So it's just something in me to actually just be a part of my community, be a part of the things that's going on around me. And so there's a lot of things that have shaped the Nancy that you see today. And it's all really just being able to be comfortable in my own skin and to be able to be authentically me and not apologize for it. See, there's many things that have shaped me. I came from a completely different experience from when I was a little girl until I was 13, when I lived in Compton. It was a completely different Black experience that I had. It was 90-something% Black around me. And so anything that I saw that was really not Black was mainly on television. I had some teachers that were not Black, but my experience was very different living in Compton. And it was really a caste system of people who felt that you should be able to do things. So for instance, when I wanted to be in journalism in junior high school, I was told that the people that run the school, not the adults, but the students, would not allow that because I was blacklisted. And that threw me for a loop. I'm like, blacklisted? First of all, why am I blacklisted? And I was told that my sister, my older sister, was dating a guy that was out of her class, that was out of her league. And because she was my sister, I was blacklisted. I'm like, well, this isn't quite fair. And so I remember going up and down the aisles at school and looking on the walls, trying to find this literal black sheet of paper so that I can scratch my name off of it, because I didn't want to be blacklisted. I didn't know that it was figuratively at that time at age 12. So as time went on, we moved from Compton, we moved to San Fernando. So transitioning to San Fernando, it threw me into a whole different world. because I stepped into my class being the only Black student in many of my classes. And so, and that was my first time dealing with real overt racism in my classes from the students, not from the teachers, but from students. And I had to fight for my own self. I had to stand up and speak up for myself. I never got in physical fist fights. I was able to always maneuver and talk my way through things. But I remember being in one class and one of my teachers just sat there while these girls surrounded me and taunted me in class. And I actually just wrote a note to the teacher and I told him, I said, Mr. Reese, this is your class and I'm expecting you to handle this. And I said, excuse me. And I walked through the young ladies and I set it on his desk. And then he made them all go to the office. Counselor brought them back, made them apologize to me. And actually a couple of the girls, we became really good friends later. But what I learned then is that, you know, sometimes even though there's adults or other people that you expect to do things, they're not going to always do the right thing just because they should. And we can't be afraid to demand that things are done right on our behalf. And so when I went to college, I guess moving to San Fernando really prepared me well, because when I got to UC Berkeley, it was an international space. It was, I was really the super minority there in that school, but it helped to grow me up. It really helped to shape who I am. And then I would say other things that shaped me is really my family. Becoming a mom has transformed my life. All of my kids, as you heard, are now all grown. But just to go through that experience of really losing my own identity, becoming so-and-so's mom. And even to this day, I'll go places sometime and they're like, you're Michael's mom, or you're Benjamin's mom. Aren't you Lydia's mom? Oh my goodness, Nathaniel's your son, right? And so I was like, what happened to me? I'm Mrs. Young. You know, I'm Nancy, I got a name. But becoming that mom helped teach me so many things in life, period. And so, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, mentors, being that mentor to other people, and even from the mentees, from teaching others, they have a lot to share and a lot that can grow us up if we really pay attention. So those are some of the things that's really shaped me. So finding my true voice. For any of you who know me, my theme really since I was a kid has been your voice matters. But finding my own voice. Sometimes voices can get lost in other people, but finding my true voice as I transition into this political role that I live in now. When I was in high school, when I graduated high school, I wanted to be the president of the United States. I had grander themes and thoughts and dreams, but no, that the reality hit me when I first went to DC and saw how many layers of things actually is connected to all of that. But the reality of it is we can all make a difference where we are. And so that's the transition for me started in 2008. I was actually watching television, and at the time, Barack Obama was a candidate for president of the United States. And he was talking about making a difference where you are, being that difference where you are. And I decided, you know what? I want to do something now that's beyond the borders of even ministry and church. And so in 2010, I don't have that on there, but in 2010, I ran for council and I did not win that year, but I continued to stay out in the community and continue to talk to people. And there was a lot of people that did not encourage me in my run. I had people that ran against me that told me I need to drop out the race. I was just a bat. And I was like, what is a bat? That just didn't sound good how you said that. Said, well, you're a Bay Area transplant and you're trying to come and tell us what we need to do and change our city into this big metropolitan place. And that's not what Tracy's about. And so, I could say so much about, that was not my plan. But even that one person in 2012 came to me and said, you know what, I've watched you over these last 2 years and what you've really done within our community. And I'm going to support you. Make sure you put your sign in my yard. And so over time, that a number of people turned over and talked to me that they just watched how I really just wanted to help within the community. I joined a lot of organizations by one of my mentors. She was a former council member, the very first Black elected to Tracy City Council, Evelyn Tolbert. She became my mentor and she helped me to make sure that I was always being true to myself and authentically me. And so in 2012, I was elected as mayor, not mayor, I'm sorry, council, the second person of color on our city council. And then in 2019, when I was appointed as mayor pro tem, I was the very first person of color in that role as well. And then 2020, of course, we shattered the ceiling with becoming the first Black mayor and also the first woman elected to the position. Now, granted, there's been two other ladies back in the 1980s that served as mayor, but they were elected as council members, and it rotated around and they served for one-year term. And so for me, I'm the first one that's actually been elected as the mayor of Tracy. And so it's come with a lot of obstacles on this journey, but I know that God's given me the skill and the know-how and the wisdom and how to go through these obstacles. When I ran track, my track coach asked me on 2 events to please run the hurdles. Hurdles was not my particular event that I ran, but I was fast. And so I was able to hop over the hurdles. Those who know how to do hurdles, they snap over hurdles. They don't hop and fly through the air like I did. So, but by the time I got to the last one, since I was so fast, I was able to pass up almost everyone on the field and take second and third place the 2 times that I ran it. But I did that, as a help to my coach. But the thing is, there are going to be all kind of obstacles. We may not know how to completely maneuver around it, but we just have to keep going forward. Even if we kind of hop through instead of snapping over, we'll get to our destinations as we continue to go. So for my next thing, I just want to just share with you just some themes. These are actually some working things that I have for a book that I want to write. And it's really about living authentically me and really sharing my voice. And so these are just some thoughts that I want to share, that these are things that have to do with what I say to myself. And so there's 8 points. The first point here is, once you have the mic, what do you say? And it's the sub thing right now is, go ahead, it's your turn. I don't know if you've ever been somewhere and somebody's like, I want to talk, I want to be the one. And so I was actually on the stage Saturday, and this one little kid ran up, just want to say something. And so then when his mom say, okay, what's your name? So I stand back and I wait for him. And he's like, he just started looking around the crowd. He was so shy. Now that he finally had the mic, some people always want that big platform before they feel like they can do anything that's of substance. But all of us have some greatness in us that we can share with somebody else. We don't have to be on the mic. We don't have to be amplified to make a difference. And so I was a part of a group called ALF, American Leadership Forum. I was class 6 for the Great Valley chapter. And I remember we had some serious conversations one day, and it was about race. And there was only 2 of us that were Black. It was a couple of Hispanics in the group, and we broke into groups to talk. And I remember the other Black young lady who was in my group, she just kind of froze up when we had the opportunity to talk. And I'm like, you know what? When we have that door open, where we can be open and we can be honest, we have to step through it. You can't be silent when you have an opportunity to speak. So once you have the mic, what do you do with it? What do you say? Are you making a difference? And so that's what I determined for my life, that now that I'm in this seat as mayor, people ask me all the time, what do you think about it? How is it being mayor? I'm like, it's wonderful when we can get things done, positive things in our community. The bad side of it is when people are negative and people come against you and people don't even know you, but that's a part of the job. And so we have to have thick skin to be able to just say, you know what, we're going to continue to do good. We're going to continue to fight against hate with love. Because haters hate. It's a lot of haterade out there. I don't know who's been shipping that over the last, couple of years, but it's okay. I'm not going to drink a haterade. Just because somebody do that, I'm going to still drink love. And I'm going to still pour out that. Because now that I have the mic, I can say things that are positive. And all of us can do that. We can just continue to do positive things because it's in our possession to do it. So now it's your platform. What do you want to build? Not others' expectations. I think so many times as women, we're always looking at what others expect of us or what others want. Okay, now that you're there, okay, this is what I want you to do. Really? So we can listen to others and we do take other input, but now it's my platform. What do I want to build? I decided I want to build community together. My theme, let me see here. I can't see my little wristband. It's called Team Tracy, Building Community Together. This is my new theme that I introduced the first day that I was sworn in as mayor. And now it's going across our entire organization. It's going across our entire city. I want to build community together. There's many things that we have in common. And if we can just focus on at least one thing we have in common, then we can build a lot of things together. I think some people thrive on negativity and division and the things that we don't have in common. And that's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. This is our time. This is my time to build. And I just want to build that with anyone who wants to build along with me. And so let's go to number 3. Why do you always feel like you have to share the limelight? This is a question to myself. Really? This is a question to women too. Why can't women stand in the sun alone? I think that, I know I've worked with a lot of men. I work with a lot of people. They can have an idea of something and they just run with it. They don't even have to have the experience, but people don't even expect them. Sometimes, people are just entitled. And I would say men are more entitled than women, that, they can just say, pay me that. I'll do it. I don't have to have the degree, but people look at the man and think, yeah, you can do that. We're gonna take a chance on you. But a lot of times women, we have to show our whole credentials. We went to elementary school, we went to junior high school. Yeah, I did get my degree there, my diploma. We went to high school. You have to do the whole list to be able to validate who we are. And when we do accomplish things, it's not it's not often where women, take the credit. It's always my whole team. And I'm not saying anything about, not acknowledging your team, because I do it all the time. But there's different things that I've actually worked really hard to accomplish, worked really hard to do. But it's really hard as a woman to be there and say, I've done this, I've accomplished this. But we accomplish things. And it's never to forget how we've gotten there, how we've built relationships, and how we're on the shoulders of other people. I didn't get here by myself. Nancy's not all smart and all wonderful. I had to have other people to support me. And so we need to always remember others and always stay connected and not get so caught up in the exuberance of whoever we think that we are, whoever I think that I am, because I know that I need other people to make it, to survive. But at the same time, I want to help empower women to say, you know what, we can do great things, and we can say we did it. We don't have to say, the other people in the background. I remember in high school, I was the editor for this one section, and all my people fell apart. They didn't do anything. And a couple of things that was done, I had to redo because they messed it up. But when we went in that yearbook, I had the whole team on there. It was really Team Nancy. I did it, but no, I couldn't do that. I had to share with everybody else. But yeah, so let's learn to be able to stand on our own and say that we can, that we did. Number 5 is, how do you know when you've arrived? And I put here is somewhere at least. Because I started thinking about this with the whole, shattering glass ceilings. Some people, all their life, they want to just be something. And so they get there and feel like, oh, I made it. But I always feel like there's more. There's always so much more to life. There's almost so much more to grow. At one point in my life, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I was like, that's going to be a lot of studying. I'm going to have to study forever. Our law's always changing. And the reality of it is, I'm always studying anyways. Life is a continual lesson that we're learning. So the thing is, I guess you've arrived when you looked over to the side and you see the sign, welcome to, that you've actually made it here. I've driven across the country several times. So I've driven to 30-something states. So I know when I get there, when it says, welcome to Arizona, or welcome to Nevada, or welcome to Washington, D.C., I know I've arrived at that destination. But I know there's somewhere else I'm going. Like I just went to Virginia earlier this year, but then I drove over to DC and I drove over to Maryland. And, there's different destinations along this journey. So yes, I've arrived as the first mayor of Tracy that's Black and that's a woman. But I am so excited because I know that there will be many more that follow behind me. When I ran for council in 2010, I had a lot of Black people tell me that that's nice, Nancy. That's admirable, but You'll never make it. They haven't won. We haven't won. That's all. They're not going to ever elect another Black person. 2016, when I ran for re-election, Khadijah Ransom ran at the same time, another Black young lady. And people said, aren't you mad, Nancy? Aren't you angry that she's going to split the vote and you may not get reelected? And I was like, you know what? This is an election for the top two people, and we need good people all the time. And she is the next best person to me to be elected. And so at every one of my events that I had for elections, for pre-election, I invited her to speak at every event. People thought I was the craziest thing. I'm like, you're not going to split us. You're not going to separate us. You're not going to pit us one against the other. And both of us won. It was miraculous. We both won the election. But that's because we stayed unified. I'm like, you're not going to pit me against my sister, my friend, my fellow mentor in the community that I work with young people. And so I think for women, we have to build one another up. We can't ever feel like I'm the only one there, look at me. No, we have to be looking for ways. How can we inspire others? How can we help others to come through those doors that we've come through? How can we put another seat up to the table so that we can help share, what we know? And that's what's important. That's what I aim to do all the time, to see, I've arrived somewhere, but I have other things to do. I have other places to go. I don't know where I'll go from here. I have some other aspirations that I may do politically, but you know what? Even if I don't, I am happy with my life. I'm happy with my children. I'm happy with ministry. And I'm excited just to see what God has for the next chapter of my life. Number 5 is to never be afraid to stand up for yourself. Always fighting for somebody else. I remember even for years, I was helping my stepdaughter along the path with, going to college and helping her with her resume and helping her get her first job and helping her go to the next job. And after a while, I looked and I'm like, my goodness, she make way more money than me. She got way better type. I'm like, I'm busy pushing people up. Let me help pull somebody up with me. And so a lot of times we can always, fight for somebody, but we have to remember that we need to fight for and stand up for ourselves as well as if you've ever been on an airplane and you're flying with a younger kid, they will tell you, if in case of emergency, you put on your mask first and then you help them. Because if you pass out, you're going to be no good to them at all. So we have to be able to stand up for ourselves and know that we're worth it. We're worth being in the positions that we want to be in. We don't have to be second-class citizens or step back. And we do live in America. I took a lot of sociology classes in college, and I realized that America is quite different than a number of other countries with women, but we are where we are. And so we need to be comfortable and be able to stand up for ourselves, as well as fighting for other people. I think that it's a combination. It's not all about me. It's about others, but I can't be afraid to stand up for myself. I think a lot of times we can take a lot of flack that's against us, and we can deal with a lot of rocks and darts that's being thrown at us. But don't say nothing about my kids. Don't say nothing about my mama. Now we got a problem. Now I'm going to stand up and fight. But we have to be able to say, you know what? We're not going to take that either. You're not going to defame me. You're not going to say negative things and just walk away like it's okay. It's not, we have to have wisdom. We don't respond to everything. But at the same time, we have to be able to stand up for ourselves and go after the things that we want for ourselves. Don't just always be the one. There are support systems, absolutely. And I'm a support system for other people as well. But there are things that we want for ourselves, and we should not be afraid to go out and do it. It's like, okay, well, mayor, you have to be a man. No, you don't have to be a man. And right now, it seems like a revolution. It's a lot of women, a lot of female mayors out there, and that encourages me. That inspires me to know that there is a balance. There's a balance in this whole leadership structure. We need a balance. We are wired differently. We're wired differently than men. So we can support our brothers, but we need to also support our sisters as well. Who do you want to inspire if you could purposely target someone? I think that's a question that we all should ask ourselves. Who do we want to inspire? Because Holly Robinson, now Pete, she had no idea that little Nancy Lipscomb, soon to be young, was watching 21 Jump Street and was inspired by her. Other people are inspired by your life. And I know people are inspired by my life. As a mentor, I love going into the classroom for the last 11 years now. Well, the last year kind of couldn't do it because of COVID. But the 10 years prior, going into Kimball High School and mentoring those 10th graders for post-high school educate, what are they going to do beyond high school? The program that we did, it was inspiring to be able to help those young people. And for people of color in the room, when I would walk into the room, their eyes light up like, oh goodness, there's somebody else walking into this room, or a woman, period. They're just excited when they have all these male teachers. And then when the younger people in their 20s would go in, they would get so excited to see young people come into the classroom. It's like whenever we have our end of the year programs, I mean, the audience just erupt in clapping and excitement when they see all these other young people. So I try to help mentor other leaders along the way that's younger. So I want to inspire. I mean, if I could purposely target, I want to inspire everybody, but I want to inspire, young girls. I want to inspire even minorities wherever they are, that you can do it. You can do whatever it is that you desire to do. You just need to surround yourself with positive people that's going to encourage you to keep going, even when others say you can't. I think a lot of times we get stuck on that one word, that one negative person that says you can't do it. Or you get yourself all fixed up, feeling all good. You go out and then one person look at you, oh, that's ugly. What? I took a lot of time to put myself together. And other people can say how beautiful you are, how beautiful are you, but you stuck on that person who said you was ugly or your hair was messed up or whatever it is. So right now I want to try to inspire all of you to let go of that negativity. I don't care if everybody says stuff negative, but one person says something good. Let's learn to hold on to that positive. Let's learn to hold on to the positive thing that's going to take us to the next level. Number 7 is a chapter you don't want to read aloud, but it must be written. All of us have things inside of us that, some things we need to keep to ourselves. Some stuff got to go to the grave. That's just how it is. But there are other things that made us who we are. And in one of my books that I wrote, I Sing Because I'm Happy, I wrote about some bad decisions that I did in my earlier life. And I wrote it just in case I ever decided to run for office. I said, I'm going to have my stuff out there already so nobody can't be like, aha, I found this on you, Nancy. I wrote it myself. It's in a book. It's published. Go read it. So all of us, we don't always make the best decisions. And I think for me, some of the challenging decisions was because I was looking at other adults that I felt like was perfect, that they didn't have, bad days or struggles or, moral struggles, but everybody had those. And I made up in my mind when I was 20 years old that I'm going to be real. I'm going to be authentic with my children, with other young people to say, look, you can make a mistake, but you can also rise from that. You can also come back from that. As long as you're alive, there's also a chance for a new day, a new tomorrow. And as ministry is my background, I know that in the Word of God, it says that there's new mercies every day. There is new mercies, goodness and mercy follow me all the days of my life. So if I make a mistake, tomorrow's a brand new day. And so that's what I want to inspire others to do too, that, there may be things that you don't want to read aloud. There's maybe some things that have transformed who you are and how you see other people and how you think about people. God allows things to happen in our lives for purpose. He allowed me to have a degree, be married, not even behind on our rent, but we had to move out of our apartment. And I became homeless for months when I was pregnant with my first son. When I was pregnant with my second son, had just helped the lady who broke down on the side of the road, picked her up, took her child to daycare, helped her get help for her car. And then I went on to work late before cell phone days. Got to work, had all these messages on my phone because the house we were renting, even though I paid my rent the week before, they didn't pay their mortgage. So the sheriff was at the door with a big old notice. They stuck on the door, took the lock off the door, and kicked us out of our house. So here I was, 8 months pregnant, 9 weeks before he was delivered, in grad school, working full time, and then now homeless. And so then we had to stay with friends. The first time we stayed in our car and stayed at Motel 6. Not because we didn't have family, but our family wasn't in Northern California and I had a job and I needed to still go to work until we could find a place. So I was already very giving. We already had people live with us from time to time who needed help. But to go through that experience yourself, see, it's a different argument that I have when I'm fighting for homeless, when I'm fighting for people that are having struggles that are not, everybody's not on drugs, everybody's not strung out on something that gets them in that situation. But sometimes people develop things because they are in that stressful situation. So God allowed me to go through those things. He allowed me to make some bad choices in my life. I can't say that I've done a whole lot of bad stuff, thank God, at least that I can, that's in a big little category. But he allowed me to experience some things to know what mercy was so that I can have mercy on other people. He allowed me not to have so that I know what it's like not to have. And he allowed me to have so that I know what it's like to have and be able to share with others. So there are just some things that you don't want to read aloud, but it actually must be said. There's number 8, don't apologize for being authentically you. And so that's what I really want to end on. Don't apologize for being authentically who you are. I remember being running when Radija and I were both running in 2016, and she had her braids in her hair. I'm like, girl, you gonna run with those braids? I mean, you probably need to do it. You probably want to smooth out your hair. I mean, because we don't want to be too Afrocentric. We're trying to win this, election. But, then after we get there, it's like, you know what? I am Black. If I wear braids, I just got braids in my hair. I put this ponytail. I got a whole bunch of different ponytails. I have different looks, different times. That's me. That's Nancy. I got to be authentically me, who I am. When there was Black Lives Matter and I walked in the protest, I walked and I spoke. I said, you know what? Before anything, I'm Black. And I have my own Black experience. I have my own experience with my sons being thrown on the ground in Stockton with guns to their heads because they were walking from a movie theater and the wrong description came across for who had just shot someone in the movie theater. And they came home with shoe prints on their backs. And when they told me feet were, they put their foot on them and they turned around and I saw footprints on the back of their shirts. I know that it happened. But at the same time, it's what do we do now? How do we move forward? And so I help to institute conversations within our community where we could talk about these very real issues and how do we move forward as a community? How do we support one another? How do we buy into different ideas that will help us come together as a community? So there's very real things that we grapple with as individuals. There's very real things that I deal with as a woman. I can't, hide the fact that if I was having a hot flash, I'm gonna need to get me some estradiol, whatever they gave me to help control, because at the council meetings, I'm a woman, but that doesn't mean that I can't, that I can't lead. So we all have our own, personal real things. We have our own backgrounds, but we have to be authentically us. So when I went to college, when I got to UC Berkeley, I remember some people came up to me and said, Nancy, you need to take African American studies. I'm like, I know who I am. Why I gotta take African American studies just because I'm Black? But I said, if I have time in my schedule, I'll do that. I'll think about that. And just so happens that my second year, my sophomore year, I decided to take, my junior year, I took African American studies. And I actually took Swahili too. It was quite fun. And so being in that class, I learned so much more that I didn't even know about my heritage and about, my background. And so it helped me to learn to just try. I remember it was like the bad word was assimilation. We all have to work with each other within our communities and in our lives, period. But we all do have a piece that makes us unique. And we need to be able to hold on to that and not apologize for that. Just be authentically whoever you are. If you have a disability, then how did you overcome that? Or how do you work through that? We don't have to be ashamed or hide any part of us because it is who we are. And it's just about being authentic. And so I do thank you today for inviting me. I know I said a lot of different things. Hopefully it helped inspire and encourage someone, but there's no right path, no right or wrong path to get to where you want to, but just sometimes realize that it's a dead end or this is not profitable. And then just have enough wisdom to say, okay, well, let me stop, let me back up, let me go this way. And along the way, pick up people in your circles that's going to encourage you, that's going to inspire you forward. So that's going to help you be authentically you to reach the levels that you want to in life. And I think we should all never get comfortable and feel like we've arrived, that we've just arrived. Okay, we've come to this destination, but let's move on. Let's see what's ahead. So there's my email contact if you'd like to get in touch with me. I'll give you my phone number if you'd like to talk. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. So I'm gonna take my little stop sharing thing off. Let's get back.
Thank you so much. We do have a few questions. I loved everything you said. It really resonated with me. And our first question definitely does as well. It is, how do you find balance between motherhood and your career?
Well, you know, motherhood is a little bit different for me now because all 4 of my kids are grown. And so, but when I did start this journey, my youngest was still, gosh, when I started going to council meetings, he must have been like 2nd grade maybe. And I had high school and I had middle school students as well. I have to kind of refer back to a chapter that I wrote in one of my books years ago, and it's called Superwoman or Stupid Woman, because I did a whole lot of things and some things just don't seem real, even when I reflect back on some of those things. So didn't get a lot of sleep, but it was very, very important to me to always be present in my children's life. Like when I said I was homeroom mom, I still was working. I never was the stay-at-home mom. I've always been that worker mom. And so when my oldest started middle school, it was still called junior high school in Fremont at the time where we lived. I actually took some time off of work and worked part-time while I homeschooled him because he had ADHD. And so he had a hard time transitioning from one class to the other. And my other 3 kids, you know, they were good in what they were doing. So I had to focus on him. So it's kind of like when my kids say, who do you love the best? Like, who's your favorite child? I'm like, you're all my favorite children. It doesn't mean that I do things equally for them, because different ones need different things at different times. So it's the same thing with life and balancing. So it's balancing the needs at the time. So when my children need stuff or my grandson needs things, I'm there for them. I'm their #1 fan. I'm going to be at all their events. And so, but at the same time, if there's a ribbon cutting in town, if I'm not out of town, I am there, because I want every company to feel like it's important. So it's just really time management. And sometimes it just may be more sleep deprived to make sure that I'm showing up and I'm present for my family. It's important to be present for my husband as well. We have to have that time so that we're together. So it's just a balance of knowing what's important and when to say yes to some things and when to say no to other things.
Awesome, thank you. Our next question is, what's the best advice you've received from a mentor?
Being authentically me.
Okay.
That was the best advice that Evelyn Tober. I have different mentors that cover different areas of my life: ministry mentors, growth in life mentors, financial mentors. But Evelyn Tober, she was my mentor to get into local politics. And so when I first met her, she was like, you know what, Nancy, you need to be involved. She said, you don't have to be like me and get involved in a lot of organizations. You can just join a couple. She said, but you're Black. You need to join Tracy African American Association. You need to be authentically Black and connect with them within that community. So that's your starting point. And then I connected with things that had to do with youth and seniors, because I love seniors. I'm getting really close in that bracket myself now, but before I was always a young person. So that's it. Just being authentically you, not apologizing for who you are and what you want to do.
Misconception about part of the HIPAA laws about their vaccination. If you got vaccinated, you're in a database.
I think we caught that.
No, I didn't. So I was trying to turn my volume down because first it was too loud, then it went too low. I missed it.
No, you're good. I think that was erroneous. Michelle, do you want to take the?
Yeah, so next we actually have a question from Christina.
Do you want me to ask it? Because I saw you guys said we could ask our own.
Go ahead.
Oh, there's Christina. Okay.
Thank you, Nancy, for your information, your insight. It's very inspiring to hear. So with that, I just want to know all you've accomplished, all you've done, all you seek to do, what one piece of advice would you give your younger self, going back, a number of years? What piece of wisdom would you offer to your younger self?
The thing is, I know I've thought about this before, but I don't remember my answer to myself. So, what would I tell my younger self? Really just probably one of the questions that I asked myself earlier, that has to do with not being afraid to stand up for yourself instead of always fighting for other people. And so I think I could have been a lot further in life if I had done things more for me, not to be selfish, but I think at some point in time, we have to be able to say, you know what, it's really about me at the same time it is while helping others.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we have another question. Let's see, what advice would you give working? Oh, I'm sorry, I've already asked one similar to that, but let me go ahead and do it again because it's important to me. But what advice would you give working moms with children?
Working moms with children. Well, it's a slight bit different. So because I was there and I commuted many years, and I remember one time we were going to move from Fremont to Antioch, but I worked downtown San Jose. But we opted not to buy that house because I knew that I was going to be away from my youngest son, and he was a couple of months old at the time, and I was nursing him too. And I was like, you know what, my family is more important. So I'm going to just stay here. And I know there's been job choices over time in life just because of my family and because what was good for my children and making sure that they had some type of consistency. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I had to know that, when we decided to move from Fremont to Tracy, it disrupted them, but it was a better change for them. So it's just that balance that we have to have with our time. It's important that we have that me time. So even before I went home, I would go to the gym or I'd go to the grocery store. I'm not going to have kids messing up my whole grocery bill, because if you have them in there with you, they're going to be begging for everything. And so it's a mess. So you have to, compartmentalize. Say, this is my time, I'm going to the gym. This is my time, I'm going to the store. And then it's your time. So we did a lot of things. I worked, and I would work overtime when I could to get more money to be able to help take them on trips and do other little things. Hey, we may be backpacking it with some sandwiches and some Capri Suns, but we got to see some things and go some places. We thought it was rich people who ate at the restaurants at Disneyland, but anyways. So it's just that balance. You have to just find that balance and just know what's important. Your kids are important. Work is important because you got bills to pay. It's real life. But you do it as you go. I had a friend, I just want to say this real quick. I had a friend, and when she started having her kids, she said, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything because everything just centers around my kids. I'm like, you have to have a life at the same time, because your kids, as they develop, they have friends. Let them have friends. Let them have their own life while you have your own life. And then she died at 50 when her kids were still young. And so she never got to have her life because she always thought it was going to be something later, but it wasn't. So we have to live at the same time as we're growing and we're raising our families.
I have a question. This is Natalia. Hi.
Hi.
My question is, what advice would you give for the transition, becoming an empty nester? How do you balance that? For me, it's a lot of what you describe in terms of your life. The only difference is I don't have family here, and I'm not an immigrant, but I'm treated as one because I'm from the United States Virgin Islands. And so getting to that point, I have a 30-year-old, just made 30, 31. I have 3 grandkids. And I have a blended family. And so I have this last one who's transitioning, but because I do agree about balancing and making time for yourself, but I don't hold on because I can't let them go, but I'm protective of them because it's just us.
Okay, so that's your question. Well, for me, my kids are spread out from oldest to youngest 8 years. So my first son, my oldest son will be 29 this year. And then behind him, my next son will be 26. And then my daughter's 24. They're 15 months apart in the middle. And then the last one is 3.5 years behind her. So he'll be 21 in October. But I remember when they were all gone to college except one.
One.
And he had to do 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th all by himself at home. And I had to purposely not smother him. Because I was like, you know, different times like, hey, you want to go through things with me? And so, you know, you see him grow up to like at my shoulder height, and then all the way, he like 6'2" now, you know, but it was a purposeful effort not to smother him, to allow him to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband would always tell him, don't grow up, because, you know, you're the youngest. And I'm like, no, he needs to grow up. He needs to learn how to be a man. Let him grow up. And so it's just something that you have to purposely do. I actually wrote a poem at the time he graduated, and it's called Is Mother What Defines Me? I was asked to write this poem for a Mother's Day event. So is mother what defines me? Because, you know, over time, you know, you lose your identity by being a mother. But then I realized that I am a multifaceted person. I'm a lot of things. Mother is one of the things. It's a really wonderful part of me, but it's only a part of who I am. And I had to make sure that I could define who Nancy is, aside from my children, aside from being my husband's wife, aside from being my mother's daughter. You know, I couldn't just, aside from being mayor, aside from, you know, being the mentor or teacher, there's different facets of us, and we have to be able to hold on to that, but we have to allow our kids to grow. My sister has 2 kids that are older than my children. She still has to talk to them every single day. I love my kids, but I don't talk to them every day.
Yeah.
I love my mama, but I don't talk to her every day. We need to have those balances. And so I actually put those buffers in on purpose, because else I would be overbearing.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter, you know, she could be I have only one daughter, 3 sons. And she called me the other day. I was in the grocery store. She lives in Virginia. And so I was like, when the last time you called your auntie? Yesterday? Because I haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks. She's like, what you trying to say, Mom? I'm like, you love her more than you love me. But, you know, I'm just messing with her. But I had to put those boundaries for myself so that I'm not overwhelmed. I had to actually put purposeful dates in between, because I can call her every day. Hey, how you doing, Lydia? Because I love my baby so much. I am that mom. But I just have to put those barriers in and learn how. I had to really learn how to really enjoy the time with my husband, being an empty nester. You know, it was scary at first. I was like, oh, it's gonna be me and you. But anyways, but life has changed, and I thank God. So it's like, yay, it's me and you. You know, I'm not by myself. So you're gonna have to just slowly just let them go. Let them be that adult. And, you know, we have the check-ins.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So any other questions?
Yes, it looks like we'd like to go to Louise Braden now. Would you like to ask your question?
I'm sorry my video's not working. Thank you so much for all that you shared tonight. It was so well said and everything. I'm very pleased that I joined tonight. I have a question of, I will be retiring within 3 to 5 years, be retiring. And that's not a recommendation for people who are still willing to get around and able and all that. What should they do when they're retired to give back to the community?
You know, there's a lot of people that I meet all the time that want to do something now that they have the time to do it. And for me, it started much earlier when my youngest son was in elementary school, because I felt like, you know, all my kids are like on autopilot. They're all out there growing up now. And now I have more time for me. And as they needed me less for homework, and they needed, you know, me less to be there for them all the time, I felt like I could do a lot more for them. But actually, a lot of seniors are now finding that they have a lot more time and they want to give back to their communities. And so they're coming and they're actually applying for commission positions, because there are different positions. And Tracy, there's a group called the Tracy Golden Agers, and they're seniors on the move. And so that was created years ago so that seniors have something positive to do. They're an active, there's active seniors. The oldest lady in our group, though, is 98 years old. She don't have a walker or anything. She's so spunky. And so, but then there's others that are younger. Myself, I was actually an honorary member since I was 40. And so, but now, they're getting involved and they're mentoring. I'm actually pulling seniors into mentoring at the high schools because there's so much wisdom. There's so much experience that you have and that you can utilize to really pour into other people. So there's different opportunities, whether it's through a church, whether it's through mentor organizations. There's a lot that's out there, quite honestly, if you start looking up the different mentor programs that are looking for people to volunteer their times to give into others. I met a gentleman the other day. He said he's like a grandfather. It's like the Big Brother organization, but it's a grandfather. It's a grandparent organization that you can actually be like a grandparent to younger people who need that. And so there are so many people that want to be mentored. They just need somebody that's willing to volunteer that time. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Find some things that's going on in your community, whether it's in your church, whether it's, civic organization, a nonprofit, and begin to see what you can do. It might be your talent or your gift from your job, that you can help mentor other young people coming up, other young adults coming up, and they need that mentorship to help them to get to the place where you've reached already. We always have something we can reach back and give.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'm going to spotlight, yes, Winnie with her question. She'd like to ask it herself. Thank you.
Hi, Nancy. I really enjoyed the session. I love the energy. It's in the positive vibes even come through virtually. So that's pretty good. Two things. One is I'm new to California and I'm finding if there is any tip you can provide to break the ceiling for experienced women. I find that in California, the ceiling is a little thicker for the experienced woman, or maybe experienced person in general, but at least definitely a woman. And secondly, to your last comment that you made, it's so timely because I just sent a note to a bunch of schools in Tracy. I live in Mountain House. If anybody needs a helping hand in high school. I'm like, oh my God, I just offered to help and here you are talking about it. So both the things, if you can help me out, I would appreciate it.
Okay, so I'm starting with the last one. Even in Mountain House, I was the initial advisor for the Key Club at Mountain House High School. Because at the time there was no Kiwanis Club in Mountain House, there was only the Tracy Club. And so I started that program. There were 376 charter students that was a part of that club. And so it's very active. There's a new, like I said, there's a new group now, Mountain House Kiwanis. And I was put into the Kiwanis Club back in 2010 when the president at the time handed me his card and he said, we're advocates for children. I'm like, advocates for children, what do you do? And so that's how I ended up becoming a part of that. So there's a number of things that people are always looking for volunteers and help within the community. And I know different people in Mountain House as well. I was just at their 4th of July celebration on Saturday. I went through there for a little bit at the park. So were you there when I actually spoke on the stage for a minute? It was around 3 by the time I got there. Yeah, so
I missed you.
But as far as the glass ceiling being thicker in California, I'm a California girl, Southern California to Northern California, so I don't know all the different, how it is in other places when it comes to, breaking those barriers and breaking those systems. I do know that when I went to a National League of Conference in Washington, D.C. years ago, and I was one of the young Black leaders there was a lot of other Black leaders, and they looked at me like, well, whoop, big whoop. I'm just like, no, it's a big whoop for where I'm coming from. I'm sorry. It's not that easy out here. And so as it may be in your area that stronghold was, broken years ago, or, for women. to do. And I've met other women who've come here from other countries, and it's like their degrees didn't mean anything here, and they had to go back to school and get some other degrees here, and that's unfortunate. And at the same time, it seems like some of us with degrees here, it's like my doctorate degree to some other people is just like a high school diploma. So, you know, it just, for some people, it's like, wow, you've really gone through, and you know, it's encouraging, and you know, other people may think it's wonderful, and other people think like, well, whatever, you're still a woman that holds that title, no matter what hard work that you did to accomplish that. Like it was all online, that they just wrote off something for me. No, mine was in person. Mine was real work, real hard work for everything that I've accomplished in my life. So the reality of it is you just do things and you just keep moving. And then after a while, you'll see it's gone. The barrier is gone. You have arrived at that destination. If we're worried so much about trying to get a sledgehammer, so we're gonna figure out how to break this whole thing open, then it's gonna be a lot of blunt trauma and force. That's a lot of work. So you just start moving and doing the things where you can and with what you know. And before you know it, that feeling will be gone. So just start to do the things that's important to you, and connect to people. And as you connect to other people, sometimes I tell people, you know, that I'm, in a way, part of me is shy. You're like, how are you shy, Nancy? You're always talking to people. But, you know, I mean, even growing up, it's like, you know, at dances at school, I'm like, I'm standing against the wall. I'm like, somebody got to hold this wall up. And so, but the reality of it is, when I go places, sometimes I'm thrown into a room and I know nobody. And what I do is I just start talking to the person next to me. And then, you know, then somebody else join a conversation, and then it becomes a bigger group. So sometimes you just connect to that person that you can connect to. And then once you have that connection, then connections will begin to grow. Just make yourself friendly. And then doors will start opening up for you.
Yeah, I think that may be the problem, because I am new and came in right after that the COVID happened. So there was no networking. So maybe I'll start with you. I will reach out to you since you're close by neighbor, and then maybe I'll meet some other people on the way.
Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of people. A lot of people from your country too. So, okay.
Hey, I'm from USA.
Okay. I know from your origin, maybe from other people.
Okay.
We'll see who we can connect you with.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a couple more questions before we wrap up. I'm gonna spotlight Cheryl to ask her question.
Hi, Mayor. I'm also from Tracy, and I'm so proud that we have a female mayor. And I'm so happy to join tonight. You are so inspiring. My question for you is, knowing what you know now and what you shared with all of us, what would you tell your younger self, your 18 or 21-year-old self, what you know now?
I know I was asked that earlier, but what I said is it still holds true though, that, you know, not to be really afraid to stand up for yourself, always, you know, pushing for other people. And so, and then at the same time, I think it's just learning how over time, this overall talk today is really becoming authentically me, and being able to not, and to be able to love every part of me, the flaws and everything, because it is who makes me who I am. You know, I don't have to be perfect to anybody but God. He made me perfectly however he did. He purposed me for this day and this time. I don't have to apologize for where I am. I'm proud to be where I am. I'm happy to be the influence that I can be right now. I'm happy to be the mother that I am. I'm happy to be the wife that I am. I'm happy. You have to just learn to be happy in whatever state that you're in. And so I think back then I was like, don't take it so serious, Nancy. You work so hard to be grown. Now, let me tell you what I would have told myself at 19, what I would have told myself at 13. Don't try to be grown, because once you get grown, you're grown forever. Trying to have all these responsibilities and wanting to be grown, let me do it. I can do it. Then when I got to be 19, it's like, you know what, this grown stuff is played out. I want to be a kid. Can somebody else pay my bills? And so, you know, that's what I would have told somebody back then. But at the same time, don't take it so serious. Trying to just be be everything to all people, because it's not going to work. Don't stress yourself out.
Very well said. Thank you, Mayor. I'll see you around.
Thank you. See you around.
And our final question is from an anonymous person who asks, how have you dealt with difficult female colleagues? We want to support each other, but sometimes it can feel like we're competing rather than supporting one another. What advice do you have?
Sadly, that's so true. And so I've worked for different people, and I found that men tend to be more even-tempered and consistent. Women I found to either be really wonderful or really horrible. And so not a lot of middle ground in between. And so I try and I strive to be that wonderful one. But what I was saying earlier about really supporting women and supporting each other, like even when I was, city council member, and I supported another council member running at the same time with me, because we have to support one another. Women can be catty. Women can be mean. And so I remember when I was elected in 2012, I joined an all 5 white men council. And so one stepped off, and actually 2 stepped off. I stepped on with another. And it was different because, for me at that moment, I felt like Gladys Knight and the Pips every time we stepped out. I was like, I'm wearing me a dress. I am, got all these men behind me, but they really respected me so I could really move forward. But then once a female got on council, it became raggedy. I don't know why people were trying to pit us against each other. And people were like, oh, a cat fight. I'm like, I'm not here for that. I am not here for that. And so, but all we can do is try to, be the best that we can, be the best person that we can. That same woman that was catty with me is in my corner right now on the council because I treat her fairly. Her voice is heard. It's important. And so it's taken time. It's taken time for her to even get to know who Nancy is, because she was who I am was misrepresented by what somebody else said about me to her when she got there that she trusted. And so I had to show her the consistency of who I am. And so I think we need to be consistent and the integrity that we carry, and not just say things, but do what we say we're going to do. Don't flip-flop. And if there's something that we need to change, there's different things that we make decisions based on new information, then be able to be adult enough to say, I said this, but I changed because of this. And so just because other people are catty out there don't mean that we have to be catty. We can start with ourselves. We can help support other people. We can praise other women when they do well. We can help bring them along. I'm trying to see now who's going to take my place when I leave. I term out. If I am reelected next year, I term out though in 2024. I don't have a lot more time that I can serve on my council. I'm looking for people who want to make a difference. I want to invest into them, invest in what I know. I may not have a lot of money, but I got all of me and I got time, and I'll give it to you if that's what you want to help. And so all we can do is start with ourselves. It's always going to be somebody that's catty out there, somebody that's not nice, but we can show and lead by example and be good and be positive and promote other women.
Love that. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation and taking all this time to answer all these questions. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm going to kick it off to Melanie to close us out. And thank you again, Mayor, for all your time and inspiration this evening.
Thank you.
I want to echo everyone's thanks, Mayor Nancy Young. Hearing your story and hearing your advice is so inspiring. I really appreciate how you said you need to take time for yourself. I was feeling guilty taking time for myself to listen to your words as my husband and son are in the other room. And I just think your inspiration and that reminder is so important for everyone listening today. And I appreciate everyone who came and was a part of our time with Mayor Nancy Young. And just the 2 things that really resonated that still stick out with me that you said was we can't be afraid to demand that things are done right. And I want to take that into the second half of this year. And those words are just so important. We can't be afraid to demand that things are done right. Then the second piece that really stood out to me is how can we put another seat at the table? And just that piece of advice I'm going to take forward in my work of how can I make sure I'm making another seat at the table and really listening to folks' true experiences. And lastly, just want to thank you for you sharing your experiences in your personal and your professional life and sharing yourself with us today. So I know on behalf of everyone who attended today, we just really appreciate your time. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Okay.
Thanks, Daniel. That is everyone. Let me go ahead and stop the video. Stop the recording.